Hello and welcome. For today's video, we're going to be digging a little bit deeper into the extensive roster of Chinese EV makers to talk about this, the Voya Free. The Voya brand is a product of Dongfeng Motors, a company that's not known for creating premium vehicles here in the Chinese market. Has Dongfeng gotten a little bit too big for their britches, or did they manage to create a premium EV on their first try? Let's find out.
The Free is somewhat unique in today's market because it is available with both pure EV and extended range EV powertrains. An extended range Free will set you back around $46,000. Those looking for a pure EV can choose between a single motor rear-wheel drive version for $51,000 or a dual motor version like the one we're driving in today's video, which will set you back around $55,000. That price point puts it in competition with cars like the Li 1 and even a base Neo ES6.
When it comes to their passenger vehicles, Dongfeng isn't known for having the most exciting exterior styling, but I'd say they did a pretty good job with this premium EV. It must be said, however, that a lot of the more interesting styling elements have been borrowed from premium brands like Maserati and Porsche. Speaking of Maserati, this front end will look pretty familiar, specifically the vertical slats here in the grille, which extend into a slim upper headlight. It's very Maserati Levante-esque. This thing does, however, add a LED light bar here, which meets in the middle at the Voya logo. That light-up logo, by the way, is said to be inspired by the Da Peng, which is a giant bird from Chinese mythology.
The Free really shines when viewed in profile, where you can see the long hood and low roofline that give it a low slunk presence. That profile is certainly helped by this car's adjustable air suspension, which we will discuss in a moment.
First, I want to highlight a couple of interesting things on the side of this car, starting with that D-pillar design out back. I love the way they've executed this design. By blacking out this area here, they've visually minimized the size of the D-pillar while visually increasing the size of the rear glass. That also gives it this steep angle here, which gives the car a sense of forward momentum. Plus, a little extra branding never hurt anybody. The second thing is down here, these 20-inch 16-spoke turbine-style wheels that I think suit this car to a T. A little bit of visual flair can be found here with this rose gold insert.
The rear design is smoothly sculpted with a full-width LED taillight that is, let's be honest, pretty Porsche-esque. I want to take a moment to compliment this car's paint color, which is simply gorgeous. I know it doesn't come across on video, but it's a bluish gray that even has a hint of green when you get it in direct sunlight.
But enough drooling over paint color, let's get to the more practical matter of rear cargo space. And honestly, there's not a lot of good news in that department. If I pop this open, the Voya Free measures 4.9 meters in length, but honestly, I'm a little bit disappointed in the size of the rear cargo area. It's not especially deep, and due to that low roofline, it's also not especially tall either. There also isn't any storage underneath this area here. Thankfully, there is a frunk. It's not much of a frunk, however, and it also has the cheapest plastic lid I have ever seen. Starbucks Frappuccinos have sturdier lids than this thing. It's also held up with this very janky, low-tech string and hook system, like so. This feels like it was 5 minutes to midnight and the Voya development team said, I don't know, screw it, put a hook and string on there. Before we took delivery of this car, I was pretty sure I knew exactly what to expect when it came to the interior. I was wrong. There is so much about this that I simply did not see coming, and that starts with this dashboard, which is retractable. Yes, you heard that correctly. This is a retractable dashboard. When you hit the, frankly, unnecessary start-stop button down here, the dashboard rises up noticeably to reveal the three 12.3-inch screens that are embedded in this single pane. You can also raise or lower the dashboard using a dedicated button here next to the shift lever. When you do so, you get a simplified version of the UI on all three screens. The other way to get the screen to retract is to switch to the Sport driving mode using this button here. Then it will retract back down. Now, is this useful? Honestly, no. I wouldn't really say so. Unless you appreciate the much more simplified UI, I don't really see how this is a useful thing in the day-to-day. But every company needs kind of a gimmick or a special thing to set it apart, and I guess this is Voya's.
But that is far from the only thing that I didn't see coming in the Free. There is also the small matter of the electrochromic sunroof, like a McLaren 720S Spider. This technology allows you to adjust the opacity of the overhead glass using a slider in the menu. It can be completely opaque, protecting you from the sun, or almost completely transparent, making for a lighter, airier cabin. This option costs $9,100 on the McLaren, and it is a standard feature on 3 out of 5 trims of the Free.
Interestingly, for a car with a retractable dashboard, the rest of the interior design on the Voya Free is actually pretty traditional, with plenty of physical buttons. I already mentioned the physical start-stop button down here, but there's also a row of physical buttons below the screen that are used to control your AC functions. That I'm a big fan of. There's also another row of physical buttons here that I mentioned, including the one for lowering and raising the dashboard, driving modes, and one for the 360-degree camera and the automatic parking system. My personal favorite, however, is this one right here, which turns on or off the parking sensors in this car. That means when you do something like go to a car wash, you can turn the parking sensors off so they're not beeping at you incessantly.
There is also the matter of the touchpad. For starters, it immediately makes this interior feel a bit dated. In addition, it's only used to control a few functions, including adjusting volume and changing music tracks. If you run 2 fingers across it, you can scroll through the map. What it can't do, however, is write letters or even Chinese characters. Voya says that an OTA upgrade can add more touchpad features, but that wasn't available on our test car. The Free's infotainment is also noticeably slower to react than systems from Li Auto, Xpeng, or Neo.
The second row of the Voya Free is simple yet comfortable. Simple because, well, there's not a lot of features to be found back here. There are no AC controls for the second row, and the seats are not adjustable in any way. Well, I guess technically you can lay them almost completely flat, but that's not very passenger friendly. Thankfully, the standard angle and the seats themselves are quite comfortable, with plenty of cushion down here. There's also plenty of room to stretch out, thanks to this car's 2.96 meter wheelbase. That's longer than the Li 1 for the record. There are 2 USB ports, that's kind of the only feature back here, but they're mounted very low down here, which kind of makes them hard to reach. I'm sorry to keep beating a dead horse here, but Dongfeng, the parent company for Voya, just isn't known for making premium vehicles. They started off as a commercial truck maker, and while they've been making passenger vehicles for quite some time, they're on the much more affordable end of the spectrum. My expectations for how this car would drive then, well, they weren't particularly high. I was wrong. Once again. Are you sensing a theme here or what? This car definitely drives like something that's worth $55,000 US. That's especially true when you put your foot down and unleash the 1,040 Newton meters of torque that are available from the front and rear mounted electric motors. That's 770 pound-feet. This thing actually doesn't have the fastest on paper 0 to 100 km/h time. It's 4.7 seconds. Not the fastest in this segment, but the way it delivers power makes it feel just as fast as almost any EV I've ever driven. When you put your foot down, the front end rises up and the 4 Pirelli P0 tires scramble for traction all the way to 100 km/h. This thing is a rocket off the line. There's even more good news too, because this thing doesn't completely fall apart when you throw it into a corner. As I mentioned before, this thing has an adjustable air suspension. When that suspension is in performance mode, which remember, you know is serious because the entire dashboard lowers down for you, it actually keeps body roll well under control. Regardless of the driving mode, the ride itself is actually quite comfortable. It's not the best air suspension I've ever used in a Chinese car, but those cars that had slightly better air suspensions, well, they were considerably more expensive than this one. The inputs of the Free, that being the steering, braking, and acceleration, are all quite smooth and easy to modulate. The steering is well weighted. It's definitely on the lighter side, but it doesn't feel over boosted. The accelerator as well, when you're not trying to snap necks, is easy to modulate and drive smoothly. The brakes too, the brakes are really good, and with the air suspension, this car does a great job of bringing itself to a stop while avoiding that kind of head bobbing movement.
That doesn't mean the Voya Free is free of problems. It is not. The safety system, for example, there we go, is one of the most annoying and intrusive that I've ever used in a car. It just loves to beep at you for everything. For example, there's a speed limit detection system, which other cars have, and it's a very useful feature. It just tells you on the instrument cluster what the speed limit is of the road you're on, and if you exceed that speed limit, in other cars at least, it just kind of flashes at you a little bit. It's subtle, but, noticeable and useful. This car beeps at you. And when you turn that system off, you can no longer see the speed limit displayed here. So it's very, very annoying. The driver monitoring system, this camera mounted right here, is also very sensitive. If you do anything approaching a yawn, it's going to beep at you. This car loves to beep. I'm sure you've heard those beeps throughout the video. The level 2 driver assistance system is also very, very, I want to say very bad, very not good. It is not confidence inspiring in any way. The adaptive cruise control is fine, but the lane keep assist feature, when you get into a turn, instead of making a single confident movement with the steering wheel, it's just constantly little corrections over and over again. It's really not a very good system at all.
The Free is also weak in an even more important area: range. Voya claims an official NEDC range of 475 kilometers from an 88 kilowatt-hour battery pack, but we saw less than 300 kilometers. Thankfully, in addition to fast charging, the Free supports 11 kilowatt slow charging, just like a Tesla. Most EVs we test only support 7 kilowatt slow charging, which would take around 13 hours to fully charge, whereas the Free takes around 8 hours. One final unexpected feature of the Free was its augmented reality instrument cluster. At first, I was confused why it was in black and white when other systems are in color. Then I realized it's because it has night vision, something you normally only see on high-end German vehicles like the 7 Series and S-Class.
So is the Voya Free a premium vehicle? Well, let me explain it by putting a new spin on an old phrase. If it looks like a premium vehicle, feels like a premium vehicle, and drives like a premium vehicle, then it's a premium vehicle.
It must be obvious at this point that I had strong doubts about whether Dongfeng could actually produce a premium EV on their first try, but that certainly seems like what they've done with the Voya Free. Really makes me look forward to their luxury MPV, but that's a subject for another video. Thanks for watching.